You see, most people think connection grows by constant talking, but that's not true. Real connection grows in the spaces between the words. When you stop talking too much, you create emotional distance, and that distance creates value. When you always explain, text first, or keep the conversation alive just so he doesn't lose interest, you're teaching him one thing, that your attention is guaranteed. And when something is guaranteed, it's taken for granted. Pause for a second and think, when was the last time you gave someone silence? Not to punish, not to play games, but to protect your energy. Silence is not weakness. It's control. It's emotional discipline. It says, I don't need to prove myself with words. Men are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. When you talk too much, you remove all the layers that make you magnetic. Mystery fades, curiosity dies, and soon your presence becomes predictable. But when you speak less, every word you say begins to matter. Silence gives you power. It makes him reflect. It makes him wonder what's going on in your world. It allows him to miss you. Missing someone only happens in absence. So, stop over-explaining your worth. Stop chasing validation with endless words. Stop trying to fill every pause. Instead, let silence do the talking. Walk away gracefully. Keep a soft smile. Show calm confidence. That's how you make him realize you're not just another voice in his day. You're a piece he doesn't find anywhere else. Your silence speaks volumes. Your calm presence whispers strength. And the moment you master that, he'll start missing you, not because you're gone, but because your energy can't be replaced. Silence creates mystery. Mystery builds attraction. It sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful shifts you can make in how you connect with people. You see, the world today is addicted to noise. Everyone is talking, posting, explaining, proving, oversharing. People are desperate to be understood, to be noticed, to be seen. But the truth is, the more you talk, the more predictable you become, and predictability kills curiosity. Think about it. When someone always tells you every detail about their day, their emotions, their thoughts, you stop wondering about them. There's no space left for imagination, no silence for your mind to fill in the blanks. But when someone pauses, when they speak less, yet with depth, something happens inside you. You lean in. You start to think, what are they thinking? What's on their mind? Why are they so calm? That's mystery, and mystery creates attraction. In life, the people who hold the most power in a room are rarely the loudest. They're the ones who observe more than they speak. They listen with intention. Their silence demands attention because it carries presence. And when they finally speak, every word feels valuable. Every sentence feels like it matters. That's how you become unforgettable, not by speaking constantly, but by mastering the art of saying less and meaning more. Imagine this. You're sitting in a group conversation. Everyone's talking, laughing, explaining themselves. And there's you, listening, smiling softly, speaking only when necessary. Suddenly, your voice cuts through the noise, and everyone listens. Not because you shouted, but because your energy was calm, collected, magnetic. That's the power of silence. It creates anticipation. People want to know what you'll say next because you don't give them everything all at once. Mystery is not about hiding, it's about holding back just enough to let curiosity breathe. When you always respond instantly, when you always explain your feelings, when you always fill the silence with words, you remove the magic. You teach others that your attention is always available. But when you pull back, when you stay quiet for a moment, it shifts the energy. People start to miss your words. They start to think about you. They start to value your presence. In relationships, this is even more powerful. Sometimes you don't need to argue to make a point. You don't need to explain why you're hurt. Your silence can say it all. That pause, that quiet moment, can make someone realize more than 1,000 explanations ever could. Silence becomes your strength. It becomes your mirror of control. Real confidence is not loud, it's peaceful. It's when you can be silent without feeling small. It's when you don't rush to fill the air just to prove your worth. Silence says, I am comfortable with myself. Silence says, I don't chase validation, and that kind of energy. It's irresistible. Look at some of the most magnetic people you've ever met. They don't overshare. They don't beg to be heard. They speak calmly, sometimes rarely, but every time they do, people listen. Their silence holds stories, their quietness carries mystery, and it's not just about attraction in love, it's about life, in your career, your friendships, your dreams. Silence teaches you emotional control. When you're not rushing to react, you're observing. And when you observe, you understand. And when you understand, you respond with power. So next time you feel the urge to over-explain, to text again, to talk just to be noticed, pause. Breathe. Remember, silence doesn't make you invisible. It makes you magnetic, because mystery isn't created by doing more. It's created by knowing when to stop, knowing when to hold your energy back and let the world come to you. That's when attraction truly begins. Over-talking kills curiosity and lowers value. It's something people don't realize until it's too late. You start with good intentions. You just want to be understood. You want to connect. You want to make sure they know who you are. But slowly, you start to notice that the more you talk, the less they listen. The more you explain, the less they care. And that's when it hits you. Sometimes it's not what you say that matters, it's what you leave unsaid. In every interaction, there's a silent exchange of energy. When you talk too much, you're giving everything away. Your stories, your emotions, your perspective. You're laying it all bare. And while that might feel honest, it also removes the curiosity that makes people want to know you more. People lose interest when there's nothing left to discover. Mystery keeps the connection alive, overexposure kills it. Think about the movies or characters you're drawn to. It's never the ones who talk the most, it's the ones who hold something back, the quiet ones, the ones whose silence makes you wonder what's going on inside. It's human nature to chase what we don't fully understand. When you overtalk, you take away that chase. You make yourself too available, too easy to read, too predictable. In relationships, this becomes even more real. Imagine you're constantly explaining every feeling, every insecurity, every thought, hoping they'll understand you better. But instead, they start to pull away. Not because you did something wrong, but because there's no mystery left. When people know they can get your attention anytime they want, they stop valuing it. And that's the painful truth. Availability without boundaries lowers your worth. Silence creates space for others to think, to reflect, to wonder about you. But when you fill every moment with words, you remove that space. You rob them of the chance to miss you, to think about what you meant, to appreciate your presence. The more you talk, the more ordinary your presence becomes. Think of it like perfume. A light scent lingers and draws people closer. But if you pour the whole bottle, it becomes too much, too overwhelming. Words work the same way. When used wisely, they attract. When overused, they suffocate. Sometimes people over-talk out of fear, fear of silence, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing someone's attention. But silence doesn't mean disconnection. Silence often means confidence. It says, I trust that my presence is enough. And that quiet confidence is what makes people lean in. In your daily life, notice this. The coworker who constantly explains their every move rarely gets the same respect as the one who simply delivers. The friend who always talks about themselves becomes background noise. But the one who listens, who speaks thoughtfully, becomes the person everyone wants to confide in. People remember how you make them feel, not how much you talk. Words lose power when they are constant. It's like a song with no pauses. The melody disappears. Silence gives meaning to your speech. When you speak less, your words become rare, and rarity creates value. So when you feel the urge to keep explaining, pause. When you feel the silence stretch, let it. You don't need to fill every gap, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let someone sit in the silence and think about you. That's where curiosity grows. That's where attraction begins. Because when people don't know everything, they start to imagine. And imagination is the birthplace of desire. You don't have to speak constantly to be understood. You don't have to explain everything to be seen. Your energy speaks louder than your words ever will. Hold some of it back. Let them wonder. Let them miss your words. That's how your value rises, not by giving more, but by knowing when to stop giving. Your calm silence triggers emotional reflection in him. Most people underestimate the power of silence because they think communication only happens through words. But silence is its own language, deeper, heavier, and more memorable than anything you can ever say. When you stay calm and quiet instead of reacting, something powerful happens in the other person's mind. Your silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to face their own thoughts, their own guilt, their own emotions. In a world where everyone rushes to respond, your calm silence becomes unusual. It unsettles people in the best way. When you don't react to every word, when you don't defend yourself every time, when you choose peace over noise, you shift the entire dynamic. Suddenly, he's the one replaying the moment in his head, wondering what you're thinking, wondering if he went too far, wondering why you're not responding like before. That quietness becomes his inner echo. Think about this. You're in an argument, voices are raised, emotions are high. He expects you to shout back, to match his tone, to explain yourself. But instead, you look at him calmly and stay silent. That moment breaks the rhythm. It's like pulling the plug from the noise. Your calmness disarms him. It makes him realize that his words have weight, that you are not playing the same emotional game. Your silence becomes power because it makes him confront his own energy. Silence makes people reflect. It forces them to sit with their own emotions without distraction. When you stop feeding every conversation, every disagreement, every text thread, you give space for realization to grow. That's when he starts to think about what he said, how he acted, what he might lose. He begins to understand that not every silence means indifference. Sometimes it means strength, boundaries, and self-respect. In daily life, you can see this everywhere. When a teacher goes silent in a noisy classroom, everyone eventually quiets down. When a boss pauses during a meeting, people lean in. When a parent stops arguing and just looks at their child calmly, the child feels that quiet disappointment far more deeply than any lecture. Silence has weight. It carries emotion without chaos. The same happens in relationships. Your calm silence can make a man think more than 100 emotional speeches ever could. When you stop chasing clarity and just give space, he feels the shift. He starts to wonder if he went too far, if he took your softness for granted. He starts to reflect not because you told him to, but because your calm energy made him confront himself. People think silence is passive. It's not. It's active energy. It's emotional control. It's saying, I'm not here to fight. I'm here to protect my peace. It's saying, I don't need to prove my point for it to be valid. It's quiet, but it's not weak. It's steady, and that steadiness is intimidating to someone who's not used to it. There's something magnetic about calm silence. It carries mystery and maturity at the same time. It makes people rethink how they speak to you. It changes how they approach you next time, because they realize you're not someone who can be shaken by words or drama. Silence isn't about winning arguments, it's about winning peace. It's about showing that you're emotionally independent, that your validation doesn't come from reactions but from balance. When you stay calm, you teach others that your emotions belong to you, not to their actions, not to their tone, not to their chaos. And that's where reflection begins. Because silence doesn't just quiet the outside world, it amplifies the inner one. It forces the other person to meet themselves, to feel the discomfort of their own behavior, to recognize your value without you having to spell it out. Your calm silence is not empty. It's full of meaning, full of strength, full of lessons that words could never deliver. Stop explaining your worth, let your absence highlight it. You don't have to convince anyone of your value. Your worth is not something to be proven through endless words, explanations, or efforts. It's something that is felt in your presence and remembered in your absence. When you stop chasing validation and start walking in quiet confidence, people begin to see what you were trying to make them understand all along. Most people waste so much energy trying to explain why they deserve love, respect, attention, or loyalty. They talk, they beg, they argue, hoping that one more sentence will make the other person finally see their value. But it never works like that. You can't explain worth to someone who has already decided to overlook it. You can only show it through distance. Absence reveals what words never could. Think about the times when you were always there for someone, always available, always listening, always showing up. You thought your consistency would make them appreciate you. But the more you gave, the more they took it for granted. They stopped saying thank you, they stopped noticing the effort, and somewhere deep inside, you started to feel invisible. That's the moment life quietly whispers, Pull back, don't explain, don't announce it, just step away. Because silence after presence is powerful. It's like taking the sun away after giving warmth every day. At first, they don't notice it. They think you'll return, they assume you'll keep trying. But then, the air changes. They start to feel the cold. They begin to realize how much light you brought into their life. That's what absence does. It creates awareness, and awareness creates respect. People rarely understand your value when you keep reminding them of it. Words lose meaning when they're said too often. But when your energy disappears, when your calls stop, when your presence fades, reality hits. They start to remember your laughter, your calm, your loyalty. They start to compare what they have now with what they lost. And suddenly, everything you tried to explain makes sense without a single word spoken. You don't owe anyone a speech about how to treat you. Your boundaries are your language. Your silence is your message. When you step back, you teach people how to meet you correctly. It's not revenge, it's self-respect. It's saying, if you can't see my value when I'm near, you'll feel it when I'm gone. In daily life, this truth appears in many ways. At work, when you stop doing extra for people who never acknowledge it, they start to struggle without your quiet efficiency. In friendships, when you stop being the one who always checks in first, they begin to notice the emptiness your messages used to fill. In love, when you stop explaining your heart and simply distance yourself, the other person begins to feel what your words failed to express. Sometimes the lesson isn't in fighting for people to see your worth. It's in leaving them with the silence that forces them to reflect. That silence becomes their mirror. It shows them what they lost, what they ignored, what they took for granted. You don't need to explain why you deserve to be respected. Your peace explains it. Your boundaries explain it. Your absence screams it. Because when you walk away with grace instead of anger, your energy speaks louder than any confrontation ever could. You teach people how to value you not by talking about your worth, but by demonstrating what life feels like without you in it. You are not for convincing, you are for experiencing. And once they've experienced your calm, your kindness, your presence, your absence will do the rest. When you stop chasing, you start being valued. There's a deep truth hidden in that line, something most people only learn after they've exhausted themselves trying to be seen, trying to be chosen, trying to be enough. The more you chase, the further things seem to run away from you. It's a strange irony of life. When you give everything too easily, people forget its worth. When you stop chasing, they suddenly remember what you used to bring to the table. Chasing comes from fear. Fear of losing, fear of being forgotten, fear that if you don't keep showing up, someone else will take your place. But that fear makes you do things that drain your spirit. You overgive, you overexplain, you stay in spaces that no longer grow you. And the sad part is, the more you chase, the less you're respected. People can sense desperation, even in silence. They can feel when your energy is anxious instead of assured. But the moment you stop chasing, everything shifts, your energy changes. Instead of seeking approval, you start to stand in your own presence. You start to see that your worth was never meant to be proven, it was meant to be recognized. And recognition only happens when you stop running after people and start walking in self-respect. Imagine this: you keep calling someone, trying to make plans, always being the one who checks in. They respond, but with less effort, less interest. You tell yourself, maybe if I try a little harder, they'll care. But the more you try, the colder it gets. Then one day you stop, no anger, no announcement, just quiet. Days pass and suddenly they text you first. They ask where you've been. They feel the space your energy once filled. That's not magic, that's alignment. People value what's no longer chasing them because they finally have to confront the void your presence used to cover. In life, what you chase often runs. What you embody, you attract. It's the same with respect, love, and opportunity. When you chase validation, it hides. But when you build it within yourself, it finds you. When you stop proving yourself to others, you begin to attract people who already see your worth. Think of a magnet. It doesn't run after metal, it simply holds its charge. Everything that matches its energy is drawn to it effortlessly. You have that same power, but you lose it when you chase, when you beg, when you try to convince people to care. When you stop doing that, your silence becomes magnetic. Your peace becomes attractive, your absence becomes noticed. In daily life, this truth shows up everywhere. The employee who constantly tries to please the boss often gets overlooked, while the one who works quietly, confidently, gets respected. The friend who always texts first becomes expected, while the one who stops for a while becomes missed. The partner who constantly explains how much they care becomes taken for granted, while the one who simply steps back becomes remembered. Stopping the chase doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop forcing. It means you let things that are meant for you come naturally without begging for their presence. It's trusting that what aligns with your energy will stay and what doesn't will fade, no matter how hard you run after it. The moment you stop chasing, you give space for life to balance itself. People start to notice your absence, they start to value your presence, and they start to realize what it felt like to have someone who gave without conditions. You stop being the pursuer and become the prize. Because the truth is, you were never supposed to run after anyone. You were supposed to walk in your peace and let the right people chase that. Life has a beautiful way of revealing the truth when you finally learn to be still. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom in motion. It's the art of holding your power without needing to prove it. When you stop explaining, when you stop chasing, when you stop pouring into places that never pour back, you begin to see who truly values your presence. You begin to understand that your peace is the loudest statement you'll ever make. The moment you stop running after people, the world starts running toward you. Because true power doesn't shout, it whispers. True value doesn't beg, it simply is. People start to see what they once ignored when your energy is no longer available. It's like when music stops suddenly after playing for hours. The silence is deafening, the absence unforgettable. That's what your calm does to a room, to a heart, to a connection. Remember this, you were never meant to be loud to be heard. Your silence carries the echo of 1,000 truths. Every time you choose to stay quiet instead of explaining, you're teaching the world how to treat you. Every time you walk away instead of fighting to be understood, you're protecting the peace that others spend their whole lives chasing. You become rare, and rare things are not chased, they are cherished. Sometimes the most powerful words you'll ever say are the ones you never speak. Sometimes the most profound response is your absence. And sometimes the greatest revenge is glowing quietly, smiling gently, and refusing to let noise disturb your peace. They'll talk, they'll wonder, they'll replay every word you once said, and that's when they'll realize your silence was never empty, it was full of meaning. In every relationship, friendship, and dream, there comes a moment where you must stop proving and start protecting. Protect your mind from overthinking, your heart from overgiving, your soul from over-explaining. Protect your worth from being handled carelessly. Because when you finally stop trying to convince people of your value, life starts placing you where you're truly appreciated. You have to understand that your calm energy is louder than any reaction. When you learn to walk away with grace, when you stop entertaining chaos, you start attracting peace. And peace is the most expensive gift in the world. Not everyone can afford it, and not everyone deserves it. But those who feel your peace will always remember it. There is strength in not responding, courage in letting go, and power in silence. When you master the art of not reacting to every distraction, you rise above it. Because the higher you go, the quieter it gets. The ones who are grounded in peace don't need to compete for attention. They already have something far greater. They have clarity. Think of your energy like gold. The more you protect it, the more valuable it becomes. Not everyone deserves your attention. Not everyone has earned access to your presence. You are not meant to be everywhere for everyone. You are meant to be where your soul is seen, where your silence is respected, and where your presence is felt deeply. Don't chase, attract. Don't explain, embody. Don't speak to be understood. Move in a way that cannot be ignored. Your silence will teach louder than your words ever could. Your stillness will show more power than your emotions ever can. And your peace will say everything that your voice doesn't need to. In the end, the loudest person in the room is not the one who speaks the most, but the one whose presence can shift energy without saying a word. Be that presence. Be that calm. Be that silence that makes the world turn its head and wonder who you are long after you've left the room.